Hi, and welcome to Schmooze Suze. I'm Suze Montgomery, your host. Wow, this show tonight is part two of a very sensitive subject, something that I've wanted to talk about for a long time. So tonight I've got Richard Camacho and John Hankins, two Vietnam vets with stories, and I've also cautioned them not to hold back. I want to hear what really happened in their lives and when this happened when they were in Vietnam. So let it rip. How'd you get involved? Did you sign up to go to Vietnam or were you drafted?
I was drafted. I was serving with the 2nd Recon in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I volunteered to go to Vietnam.
Why?
Felt it was my duty.
So patriotism. It was the right thing to do.
Well, I was trained to be a killer, and that's what I wanted to do.
Wow, I don't see that in you at all.
Not now.
Yeah, but at that time. John, how'd you get involved in Vietnam? Why were you there?
Well, I joined the Navy in a special program. You could join at 17 with your parents' permission, and I was still in high school. So I started my training while still in high school. You did weekly classes. And the reason why I joined is that I wasn't real interested in going to college. I wanted to see the world, I wanted to see other cultures and explore. So Vietnam was not happening at that time. I graduated in '63, and so I went on this wonderful Mediterranean cruise. We went to the Azores, to Africa, et cetera, and then was exactly what I was doing. Join the Navy and see the world is exactly what was happening. When we pulled into Norfolk the year after a year or so, we got recommissioned to the West Coast, and we went through the Panama Canal. They did not tell us why we were recommissioned to the West Coast. We went into dry dock in Long Beach, and we still had no inkling what Vietnam was about. There was advisors
Excuse
there.
me, the whole ship did not know where you were going?
No. Well, I'm sure the captain and others knew it, but that was well
none
above
of
our
you
pick. No, well, I mean, when you're an enlisted man, you're a tool. You don't need to know. And so, anyway, so we went on this wonderful, what's called a Westpac cruise, Western Pacific, and we were going to, went to Hawaii, Philippines, Japan, et cetera, and we were so happy we were going to go to Australia. Our ship was the USS Canberra, which is named after the capital, and we had a personal invitation from the Queen, and we were all excited. Halfway there in the Pacific, probably more of the South China Sea, the captain gets on the horn and says, sorry folks, we're not going to Australia, we're going to a country by the name of Vietnam. And we're going, what is Vietnam? And that was a turning point, '65. That's when it really started kicking in. And so, so to answer your question, there was not a war going on when I joined. But I was, you know, as Richard said, you know, you're patriotic, you're doing your duty, and so you go with it. And that's exactly what I did.
Scary times. I mean, you know, my only perception or, you know, information I've had is, you know, I was home here stateside and I was protesting this war. I mean, I was not uniquely alone in that, you know, by the protest. I just, since Congress didn't, you know, I went by the book. Since Congress said no war, you know, we're not going to declare it a war, it's not a war. So a lot of us kids, college kids, were all saying, hey, you know, this isn't the right thing to do. Watching my neighbors, watching my boyfriend, watching, you know, family members leave. The whole street was literally wiped out of all the guys. There was no eligible guys left on my block by this time. So we were all looking at it and go, where'd our neighborhood go? These are kids that we all grew up with. And of course the fear was, are they coming home? Where are they going? Where is this strange place on the other side of the world? And we did not, you know, we just didn't have the information. So since then, subsequent to that, I've done a lot of research on it because of the way this United States right today still looks at Vietnam with kind of scratching the head. Where should have we been there or not been there? Was, you know, Richard, what was your feeling?
It was the Monroe Doctrine that got us there. when a third world country called and asked us for help under the Monroe Doctrine, we would help them. After the Monroe Doctrine, it became the domino theory. If Vietnam falls, Cambodia will fall, Laos will fall. But that proved to be not true.
Do you think they knew? Do you think the federal government knew really what was going on and they just withheld information? Or maybe, who knows to this day, right?
Yeah, there's so many stories, you don't know which one to believe.
And I'm always, you know, you've seen those great documentaries. I mean, Ken Burns did a great piece on Vietnam. It's very hard to watch. But I look at that, and I pulled up this quote this morning by General Wesley Clark. Remember Clark?
Sure.
He says, don't get involved in something you don't have a plan to get out of. He actually said that, wasn't he one of the leads, military leads in this? So even then, people were asking questions, but then again, they were taking orders. So they were just like you, taking orders of what you were told to do, and you were following them because that's the way it was at the time. None of you protested.
No,
I mean,
if we had protested, we would have been court-martialed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Us at home protested the war. And I mean, it was on TV every single night, body counts by Walter Cronkite.
Now, that brings up another point. This
Okay,
was
good.
the first war that was televised. The first time that you saw what was going on, what we
In
were
real
seeing.
time.
In real time. And if you watch the movie Born on the 4th of July,
Correct.
they're getting ready for dinner. They sit down, the mother goes to the living room, changes it from the Vietnam War to laughing because she wants dinner to be pleasant. Not thinking about what we're going through. We can't change it. We have to face it. But yet people back here can change it. You know.
And people were questioning, but we were not getting answers.
Right.
And you were following orders, so it was kind of like a standoff. We didn't have the information we needed, and you just had to do what your job was. Right. Both of you, you've got leftovers from, obviously, from being in the war. And now, John, you've been diagnosed with Agent Orange, and I believe you also had, you were exposed to Agent Orange,
I was exposed to it, and the VA considers me exposed to Agent Orange, and I'm 70% for PTSD and 30% for hearing loss.
How could they deny that? I mean, you gave your life to these people, Richard, and these people just won't back it up to this day, which angers me. I get really upset when I see that kind of thing. And when going with you to your doctor, sitting there at the VA with you, as they examine you, and I know what you're like, because they see you only from a medical point of view. They don't see you when you're in pain.
Exactly.
They don't see what you're going through emotionally and the toll it's taken not only on you, but your families.
My wife said that one time when I got the rating. She says, tell them to come live with you for a while.
Exactly. And people don't understand that.
Exactly.
And it's long term. It's not just overnight. This is something you live with the rest of your lives. And
Well, of course, they had to, as far as effects of Agent Orange, there had to be a scientific basis. It's like the pesticides. It's a herbicide. It's like the
Yes.
pesticides now through Dow Chemical and everything, and the Roundup and the cancers that are happening. I mean, you have to have that scientific basis there. I recall very vividly, the Agent Orange. They had an orange stripe on the containers.
Right.
And we got, what ticks me off to this day is I can pick up some Roundup at Lowe's and read the label, and it will tell me exactly how to handle it, quote, safely, unquote, and what's in it, et cetera, et cetera. We had none of that with Agent Orange. It was a container that was loaded, et cetera, et cetera. There was no classes or heads up saying, okay, if this stuff leaks out or whatever, this is what you have to do. Perhaps you need to wear protective clothing and everything. There was none of that.
When they first presented Agent Orange to Admiral Zumwalt, they lied to him about the effects. As a result of his approving it, his son was the first to die from it.
no kidding.
That I didn't know.
I'd
Wow.
never heard that either.
Yeah.
Oh.
So why, both of you, why did it take so long for the federal government to acknowledge the deleterious effects of Agent Orange. Why?
The biggest thing, like for your husband, when they denied the Navy, the blue water, and they said, why are you denying them? Well, because it'll cost us too much to give them the compensation.
Right.
And that's all Congress
folks,
looks at.
But that is just total bullshit. That does not work for me. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm so, this makes me angry to see the pain that you both have to go through, and you carry this the rest of your lives, and it doesn't affect just you, it affects your entire families. And how about it gets in your DNA?
Okay.
How about down the road?
We know that we've passed it on to our children. Well, the new studies are now showing it's in the grandchildren. Yeah. And each generation, the gene mutates. So it is being passed down to our children and their children.
And for them not to give you complete coverage for what you experienced and went through, that doesn't work. Yeah. I'm sorry, and I don't know, maybe you're not angry, but I get very angry when I see this. This makes me crazy because I watch him and the pain that he goes through, and it scares the hell out of me. I mean, we haven't talked about it with the entire family yet, but it's coming really soon because they need to be aware of this too.
Well, if you look at the history of warfare, it always boggled my mind, you know, they send all these hordes of soldiers, if you will, toward each other. Well, and clearly, and they're shooting right at each other. I says, how is this warfare? This makes no sense. Now, when we were fighting in Vietnam, you had guerrilla warfare, and that's the way you would more fight. You'd have small contingents of fighters and go attack and then run back away. And that cuts down on the death toll, and it's a whole lot smarter. But see, this is a whole history, centuries and centuries back. And I remember studying The Art of War, not that particular book, The Art of War, which is a classic. It's centuries old. But reading a lot in the history when I finally got into college. And at least the service did give me compensation as far as paying the tuition and books and all that. I didn't get any housing or anything like that, but that was fine. I got through college thanks to the service.
The GI Bill.
The GI Bill, and I paid them back by learning history and becoming a journalist. Because speaking of how war changes you, when I went in, I figured, well, after I get out of the Navy, my favorite classes were always engineering, drawing, and architecture. I think and my father was a builder, so architecture that's what I was thinking of. When I got into Vietnam and everything and saw what was going on, and we were in junk patrol, so yes, I was a blue water sailor, but we also had the boats that were close to shore. We were up and down the coast in Da Nang and Chu Lai all the time, very close to the shore. And also a lot of our operations, and as far as the junk patrol, were very close to shore and sometimes up the rivers. I personally did not go up the rivers, but so what was going on, and you know, then you'd hear. One image that I had was we had R&R, Rest and Recreation, one time in Hong Kong. So I went into Hong Kong and took off the uniform and saved money and got into the Hong Kong Hilton. I remember going up into my room, and I bought some civvies at one of the Hong Kong tailors, and there was a Time magazine there. I opened up Time magazine, and it told me more about what my ship was doing than they told me while I was on the ship. And the salient point of that is this. When I read that thing, and also news reports during that R&R, it would say that, the government is saying we're not violating Cambodian airspace. My eyes would roll. Says, of course we are. I see them. It's ridiculous. I see them on their radar and all that.
So propaganda.
Well, you know, I mean, they're narrowing focus on what they want the American people to hear.
Right.
And the thing, when you get back, one of the things that was a turning point for me was Robert Scheer, who became a famous journalist. He was just starting out then. He did a little back book, which I forgot to bring, said how the United States got in Vietnam. Boy, was that an eye-opener. It's only like 50 pages, if that. And the French, of course, were there before.
Correct.
And when I read that, I said, oh, we're making all the same mistakes the French made. Mm-hmm. So why are we there? If we don't learn from what was from our ally, the French, they were telling us everything possible, you know, and we did not learn from that mistake. And that's the thing that turned me into a writer and a journalist, that this cannot stand. I want to see the truth the rest of my life, and I want to be a person who reveals that truth. On the other hand, my brother turned worked for the NSA, so the family joke is he spent his life covering up secrets. I spent my life uncovering them, not necessarily the same secrets. So we cancel each other out.
When you came home, Richard, I mean, I can't even imagine the emotions that you must have gone through.
When it was my turn I had a week left on my enlistment when I was still in Vietnam. And I went to my gunnery sergeant and I said, you know, in another week I'm going to be a civilian. And we went up to the headquarters right there, and they looked in their records. They said, oh, we showed you went home last month. And I said, no, I'm still here. So they sent me home. So I went from Vietnam to a civilian in less than a week. I went from fighting to you can't kill anyone.
How do you twist your mind around that?
You can't. They don't deprogram you.
So when you got home, I mean, obviously there was turmoil here.
There was the first week I was home, my wife, because I was married when I went to Vietnam, she went to wake me up, and I sat up because I was having flashbacks. I sat up and slugged her.
Oh my God.
And then I told her, never touch me up here again. Touch me down by the feet. Because, you know, because of what had happened.
Do you still have emotional, you know, challenges like that? Or is it dissipated over years?
I've been in counseling for over 30 years. But
I don't doubt it.
There was one time where I was going to my unit reunion in New Mexico. And a friend flew out from Minnesota, and we were going to go together, and we were talking, and I talked about one ambush that I was on. And I was sitting there in the dark, and I kept feeling something crawling up my back, and I kept, you know, just wiping it off. When the sun came up, I had a pile of white roaches behind me that I had wiped out. And my late wife said, that's what you're doing. I said, what? She said, every night you sit up in bed and you go, and you lay back down again. And I didn't know I've been doing this.
How long were you there?
In Vietnam?
Yes.
9 months. Not the last 9 months of my enlistment.
And how long were you there?
7 to 9 months.
So the emotional toll for the rest of your life that you carry with you for that period, it's never going to go away.
No, there's things that'll
stay with you the rest of your life.
One mission I had to go on, Bravo Company was wiped out. They were laying in the sun for 10 days. We went under the cover of darkness to get them. And the smell of those guys when you're carrying them. Anytime I see or smell anything rotting, I'm right back there carrying that Marine again.
Flashbacks.
Yeah.
Now, both of you, you know, are somewhat covered by the VA now, which they're finally, the feds are finally recognizing and acknowledging this happened. I mean, I'm looking at all the wonderful things that, you know, that you do for each other. I'm not saying this is the feds that are doing this, because right now I'm not real happy with the feds, okay? But I look at all the wonderful pieces that you have. These are like how you access all the different, how PTSD works. You've got Vietnam Veterans of Ventura County. They have a veterans resource book that I was able to pick up. And I actually went to this. I don't think you probably remember me being there, but I was at the Veterans Home when they opened it up here in Ventura, in the city of Ventura. And they're now building a nursing home facility on that same property.
Yeah. I was on the original committee for that.
I thought so. And then they're actually, and I was there when they opened up the gardens.
Yeah.
Because Kathy Griffin was one of my girlfriends
Right.
that invited me, and she goes, "You got to come and see this."
Right.
I mean, when I walk, because I will go visit there occasionally, and I see, like you said before we start taping, how many veterans from Vietnam are we losing a day?
About 850.
And how many were there totally?
There was 2.9 million, and roughly 850,000 of us are still living.
They're dying from what happened?
Agent Orange, systemic heart disease.
Diabetes,
Yeah.
Parkinson's,
Yeah.
dementia.
Yep.
I mean, these are PTSD. These are all real things that happen to you. And I brought this. I don't think the camera's going to get this, but we'll have a better picture of this. This is when Richard was acknowledged. When did we say this was, John?
2014.
This is not enough. He was recognized as a local hero. It's not enough.
And so were you.
Well, I don't talk about that. But he was recognized as a local hero. To me, every one of my Vietnam vets, and also I still have a couple of World War II vets that I teach. These are my students in my classes that are still alive. And I want to thank you for being here, both of you, because most of the guys don't want to talk about this. They just as soon forget it. But what you're doing here on this show is sharing your experiences so other people understand and know that there is some kind of help out there. Sketchy, but there's some kind of help out there. And locally, I think the best help that I was able to find is the Ventura Vietnam veterans that help each other.
Right.
You guys are helping each other, and this is all voluntary, right?
Yeah, it was established in 1985. I joined in 86 and became president in 87, and I was president 8 years after that.
Why did you do that?
When you're around them, you feel safe.
They're your
And-
brothers.
Yes, and that's why I wear a bracelet like this. So lets another Vietnam vet know that I was there. And
I didn't know that.
when you can get two Vietnam vets that don't know each other, within 5 minutes you think they were lifelong friends.
I see that happening in my classes.
Yeah.
And the camaraderie and the brotherhood.
Right.
Because nobody else really understands what you went through.
Right, when I go to the reunions for my unit, my wife said, that's the only time you relax. That's the only time you'll sit with your back to the door because you know your brothers are watching.
And for them not to give you full benefit coverage? What the hell? That just it makes me really angry.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
that's got to
some of
hurt
it's
you.
double insult because, as you know, it was a hated war.
Sure. I hated it
and,
here at home, and I wasn't
A
even
lot of
there.
us, when we came back, there was incidences. If they knew you were a Vietnam vet, you were tabbed as a killer, et cetera, et cetera.
A baby killer.
Yeah, that.
Baby killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and atrocities and all that. So there was a period there in which you come home, you do your duty, you're patriotic, and you think you are working for the good, basically not only of the United States, but of peace in the world. And you come back and find out, well, that wasn't exactly true. And you're vilified for it. And so, so it took quite a few years, for that to calm down a little bit.
Has it ever?
Yeah, I think
I think it's
all the
simmering.
people that I run into, oh, you're a Vietnam veteran, and I think that has passed, because people realize that when you're in the service.
Not when you're having nightmares.
Well, no, I understand that. I'm talking
You're
about.
talking about the
I'm
general
talking
public?
about the public
Perception?
vitriol toward Vietnam veterans.
It's the younger generation that has accepted us.
Yes.
The older
That I
generation, yeah. And I know people come up and say, thank you for your service, and I think to myself, yeah, you're 50 years too late.
Yeah, there you go.
Good for you to be able to be honestly to say that.
Yeah.
Heartfelt.
So let's tie this into what's happening today. I mean.
I don't even want to get started with
No,
that
no, just one last
Well, I've
comment.
got 2 minutes, 2
One
seconds.
last comment on that. One of the things with Vietnam, it was in many ways the big lie. The public was lied to as far as body counts, et cetera, and why we were there. And now what's happening now in the Middle East is that we are abandoning our allies. This is extremely serious. And I was listening to NPR today. They were interviewing the soldiers who are over there in Syria, and they're saying, we have bonded with the Kurds. These are people we are helping to protect. And now they're telling us we're going to go, and they don't even know how they're going to get out there. They may have to be airlifted because Turkey has it all surrounded. And so for our government to abandon our soldiers cannot stand. I'm
Okay.
really ticked off.
We just ran out of time, but I'm serious about asking you to come back. Can you?
Yeah.
Can you come back? I want to do a third part because I'm not done with this by a long shot, because this is going to be the inaugural. The last piece we did, this second piece, there's going to be a third piece, and I'm not done by this figures in.
The current president of the Vietnam vets, Dave Wilson, denied he was in the military and Vietnam until 2010 when we had the wall at Avilan. He finally came out and said, yes, I'm a Vietnam vet.
Holy,
All these years he denied he was even there.
the pain. Thank you both for coming on. You're coming back. And thank you at home for watching. More to come. We're not done with this. Thanks. Join us again next week.